out here in 5, 4, 3, 2. All right. Hello and welcome everyone to another Chat and Learn here with Power to Fly. My name is Mariella Marie, and as always, super excited to roll into this next hour with you all. Our guest speaker is calling from Dallas, Texas today, and it's making me nostalgic because I have family that lives in Houston. I'm currently in Argentina, in Patagonia, and we've got some folks representing DC, California. Let us know where you're calling from. You can write that in the chat box. I'd love to give you all a shout out and see where we are in the world, and we can really see the power of digital community here. But before we get started, I just want to go over some quick housekeeping rules so that everyone feels comfortable and confident in this next hour. I like to start off by saying, a lot of crazy things going on in the world. I'm sure our guest speaker is going to highlight, how we can keep our focus during these crazy times. And you could have been doing anything else right now, but you're deciding to spend the hour with us. So with that said, we would love for you to participate. Participation is key. I love, highlighting that we believe in visibility here. I would love for you to turn your cameras on. If you hop off mute, I would love for you to hop off mute, but if you do hop off mute, we would love for you to just be present with us, share what's on your mind. If you have any dreams that came to you last night, if you have any tips and tricks of your own that you find helpful, come off mute, share your voice. I've muted everyone upon entrance just to avoid background noise, but I can't stress enough, come off mute whenever you want to share your voice. You will be featured in our live recording if you do come off mute. And actually, this is a great time to say, I know that we live in a world where everyone is multitasking. Maybe our guest speaker can speak to that as well. But I would love for you to be present with us so that you can voice a question or reflection when the time comes. And then, that will also give you the power to turn your camera on or turn your mics on as well to share your voice. So would love to hear from you throughout this hour. I'm going to sound like a broken record as well, because I really want to remind you all that we want to hear from you. If anyone has any sensitive information and you prefer to be kept anonymous, you can find me in the chat box under Mariella Marie. You can write to me privately and I will flag your question or your reflection to our guest speaker. And then the last thing I'll say is that we would love for you to follow us on socials and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can keep up with all the great chats we've got in store. And for those of you who are new to our Power to Fly Chat and Learn series, I have the pleasure of, diving in deep with our awesome guest speakers, picking their minds and leaving us with some food for thought to contemplate on throughout the week. So I'll introduce our guest speaker in just a few moments, but I just wanted to introduce myself if you're unfamiliar with the Power to Fly Chat and Learn series here. I love speaking about the importance of emotional intelligence, and especially in the workplace, at home, and at play. So maybe I'll bring some of our reflections to that note so that we can all contemplate on how to deepen our emotional intelligence. And with that said, I would love for you to support the project that I'm working on that is called the Positive Force Team. You can go to thepositiveforceteam.org, sign up for our newsletter, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. And sometimes I'm a little slow to respond on LinkedIn because I have a social media resistance I'm working on, just because there's so many crazy things going on. I'm trying to find my balance there. So please be patient with me, LinkedIn, but I would love to connect with you on LinkedIn. All right, with that said, I'm going to pass the mic to our guest speaker who's calling from Dallas, Texas. Karuna, let us know a little bit about yourself, how you came to learn about Power to Fly, and what you're excited to share with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mariella. What a pleasure to be, moderated by you. I have known you since Diversity Reboot through Power to Fly since February, and I was like, how did I get so lucky? And emotional intelligence is, of course, very, very important and very key as I do my diversity, equity, and inclusion research. So yeah, a little bit about myself. I have a 2-decade track record in supply chain. I pretty much grew up in the food service and restaurant side of the industry. And this past decade is definitely my favorite so far, which was working with countries all over the world, working for a global brand and launching the brand in 30 plus countries and getting to work with stakeholders, suppliers, executives from all over the world, which actually, segued me into my next career move, which was deep diving into diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I actually did a career pivot last year. And and I also, as a result, started specializing not only in diversity, equity, and inclusion, but I had led a training and development department for about 4 or 5 years. So I have been training and coaching and mentoring professionals and other leaders along the way. So I thought, okay, let me get a specialization in that as well. So now I can officially call myself a senior certified professional coach. Got certified through, again, a global institute that's recognized by ICF, and that's International Coaching Federation, and European Mentoring Coaching Council, since I want to keep my global portfolio alive after being in it for about 10 years. So yeah, wonderful. Thank you. So if we could move, and as a result, I'm also a certified I'm Remarkable facilitator. So if we could move to the next slide. Yeah, thank you. So what we're going to talk about today is, self-promotion, self-advocacy. We're all remarkable. We all have unique stories to share, but what is holding us back? And what I'm going to keep referencing throughout our session, our chat today, is the I'm Remarkable Google initiative that was actually founded by two Googlers, coincidentally named Anna. And they, the workshop and their research was based on empowering women and underrepresented groups in speaking out loud, their accomplishments and their achievements, because that was actually holding them behind from progressing in the workplace and beyond. So understanding how important it is, because by not talking about ourselves, our achievements, our accomplishments, we actually throw a wrench in our progress. So that's what I'll be referencing throughout. So I just wanted to share some context there of where that originated from.
Awesome. Thank you, Karuna. Thank you for that beautiful introduction as well. And I'm sure I'm not alone in saying that we would love to hear more of your journey as you respond to these questions that folks have submitted previous to the chat. So feel free to sprinkle in, little bits and pieces about your journey as well. Congratulations on the career pivot and also during these unprecedented times. So if you have any tips and tricks for folks who are thinking of career pivoting, I'm sure that they would love to hear from you as well. Can you go over some of the principal themes that you plan on highlighting for the next hour?
Yeah, absolutely. So some big takeaways that I would love, for everyone to take away from our session today is talking about accomplishments, talking about achievements is nothing but a mindset shift. And having one key takeaway that it's not bragging if it's based on facts. So I will, again, share some examples on what that looks like, but definitely always at the back of your mind have that it's not bragging, it's not boasting if it's based on facts. Then recognizing your, achievements and articulating your achievements. What that means is logging them, keeping a journal, or just making sure you are capturing your wins. And spark conversations in your circle. So there's a lot of stigma based on cultural norms or societal norms or even family norms of, when it comes to talking about yourself. So how can we create a culture of organically talking about our wins, our self-worth, and our confidence?
This is great. And I feel like this is so timely as well. We actually have folks writing in the chat box already about how they need a ton of help in this area. Some of us grew up in cultures where talking about yourself is looked upon as bragging, arrogant, etc. So I'm sure that folks are going to be walking away, hopefully with a little more encouragement to be able to speak our truths, to highlight, what makes us us and stay true to that. And I know you have some more slides here that you want to speak about before we roll into the questions. So go for it.
Yeah. Again, I just want this to register. So I'm starting out, the presentation with these two takeaways. And normally we do it at the end, but this is such an important topic, and this is such an important skill. So that's another thing. I want you to have grace and compassion to yourselves, because this is a skill. And so like any other skill, it will take practice. So please don't be hard on yourself, but use these two like tips or tricks, that it's not bragging if it's based on facts. And the next one is your accomplishments do not speak for themselves. So it's very important, as much as we have been talking about in the last past year, that having a voice, having a seat at the table, having that visibility is important. It starts all with self-advocacy and self-promotion, because your accomplishments need an owner, and the owner is you. So it starts with you.
Oh, that's so beautifully said. So I'm excited to roll into these questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and then we're going to roll into these questions that you all have submitted previous to the chat. So if you hear your question come up, please write in the chat box or hop off mute. We want to hear from you. If this isn't your question and you still want to chime in, please feel free to hop off mute or write in the chat box. And don't worry, I'm going to be repeating myself throughout the chat because I want you all to engage with us here. So let's start with this first question here. How can you celebrate yourself and your achievements, but not become self-absorbed or develop unhealthy ego thinking?
Yeah, great question. And, throughout every workshop that I have attended, as well as conducted, by workshop, again, I'm referencing the I'm Remarkable workshop. This is a resounding and a recurring theme, that, what I don't want to sound like I'm boasting. It feels weird. It's outside my element. It's not a muscle that I'm comfortable with. And that's the key word. It's a muscle, it's a skill. So, like anything, it has to be developed. But when it comes, there is a difference. There is a difference between sounding, arrogant versus sounding confident. And I'm going to start off with an example right off the bat. I'm going to share the same message in two different ways. And that will kind of give you a context of what good looks like and what may not look like good. But again, it's all about your comfort, which I'm going to talk about, finding that authentic self, knowing your value system, and then adopting your style accordingly. But there is no option but to self-advocate. So I'm known for my dancing talent and dancing skills. Pre-pandemic, I'm a Bollywood dancer, so artist, so I get to perform on stage with celebrities that used to visit from India. And I normally get complimented. So let's say someone compliments me and they say, oh, your performance was great. You're such a great dancer. So I'll say, yeah, I know, I'm very talented. I'm naturally gifted. I know once I get on stage, there's no two ways about, having a knockout performance. And you know what? I'm naturally gifted because I never took any professional training. So yeah, I'm just gifted. And another way to say that is, thank you. I appreciate it. Dancing is a passion. I would probably say that I probably learned to dance before I learned to walk. So it's a passion. But unfortunately, as much as, I loved dancing growing up, I could not get professionally trained, but I still made sure that I followed my passion and participated in events any chance I got. And then I moved to the US and again joined two schools. And now actually I'm getting professionally trained, but I'm just fortunate that I'm able to follow my passion. So, you decide which was, something that resonates with your style or a style that you can come up with. So what we're doing here is talking about the talking about the content, talking about your journey. It took away the importance of I actually, but I still spoke throughout about my talent, about my passion, about my dance. And we all love TED Talks. We are just absorbing what the speaker says. We never, look at the speaker and say, oh my gosh, I don't know of, that they are so full of themselves. They're so bragging. They're talking about their struggle, or they're talking about a hurdle that they overcame. So those are the things that you hear. So there are three I's. I know we're talking about about ourselves. There are three I's that actually get generated or sparked as a result of you sharing your accomplishment or advocacy in a healthy manner. And that is, it sparks interest, it sparks inspiration, and it gets involvement. So again, there are a lot of examples that I'll share throughout, but bottom line is there's no two ways. There's self-advocacy or self-promotion is not an option. It has to be done. It's just finding what style of self-advocacy will suit your style.
I love that. First of all, I love that you are bringing in your artistic vision in this conversation because I have a philosophy and a belief that I believe we're all creative beings. I believe we're all artists, but we have somehow figured out how to unlearn that growing up for whatever reasons. That's more of a philosophical conversation. But some of the work that I do is to try to find how to remind people of the artists within. And so you're speaking of this moment of, okay, after you dance, then someone might compliment you, and the work of the artist is to acknowledge that some way. And then I guess whichever way you decide to acknowledge it, it could be healthy or unhealthy, right? It could cause resentment, or it could make you feel like no one is seeing you or hearing you. So I love the way that you're navigating that, because a lot of people, I find, even especially as an artist and people who don't identify with artists, but I want to talk to you because I believe you are an artist. That vulnerability can be blinding. So it may prevent someone from speaking themselves up, let's say, or for acknowledging that feedback by saying, like, I don't want to be seen, I prefer to be invisible, or like, I don't want to share this vulnerable part of me. I did a lot of work, I had to deal with, the XYZ that happened in my life, and that's what brought this dance to be. You might not want to get into the nuts and bolts of it. So I would love your, just to dive in a little deeper, if someone is battling that, how to be openly vulnerable. What would you say to that person in this situation, right? Of bragging or acknowledging positive feedback.
Oh, so are you talking about being comfortable receiving compliments? Yeah, okay. Yeah, that actually kind of segues into another topic that I've seen come to light a lot, that's been spoken about a lot, is again, the imposter syndrome. So I find that one of the challenges or dynamics that is faced there is not, you feel guilty about taking a compliment, or you feel you don't want the attention, or you don't want to be highlighted. And I come across, in fact, I'm coaching a client right now who will not take a compliment. And I'm asking her, what is it? Where is it stemming from? What is it that's making you uncomfortable? Again, as women, we are very comfortable calling out other folks' accomplishments and other people's achievements. We always sometimes are so used to shedding light on others that we don't like light to be shed on us. And in fact, I will also say the same thing. I have no two ways or issue getting on stage and dancing. But when it came to standing on a podium and talking and people clapping, I wanted to crawl under the table or the desk. And I wondered, why is that? So it's, again, probably feeling a slight lack of confidence, or feeling you're not totally a subject matter expertise, or there's someone better than you. And this is when you need to self-reflect and make yourself your own competition. And something that has helped me, which I started since 2017, is logging my accomplishments. I just have an Excel spreadsheet. And since 2017, I started very simple. Of course, now it's evolved, but keeping that center front, and a lot of folks do vision board as well. Keeping your accomplishments, your vision center front is very important, because it's a constant reminder of the things that you have achieved, because you tend to forget. I mean, if you ask me, what did I do in September of 2017? What were your accomplishments? I can just go back and look at it. If you ask 2016, I don't know. So it kind of accomplishes three things. It boosts your confidence. And when you go back, 3 or 4 months down the road and take a look at it, it amplifies the magnitude of what you accomplished. For example, I have launched brands, supply chain networks across the globe, and spoken to suppliers around the world. But I did not feel or understand the magnitude of that huge endeavor until 6 months down the road, when I'm like, wow, I opened up a brand, of course, in collaboration with other disciplines, but the supply chain aspect of it was mine in China. China is a difficult country to brand launch. It's very different. I mean, every country is different. But now when I go back into it and take a look at everything that was involved, I'm like amazed at myself. And also the other thing that logging your accomplishments does, it makes you, it helps you stretch. I have had more stretch assignments that I have done. I have gone outside my comfort zone. I don't think I would be sitting here today, with Power to Fly and talking to all the amazing women on here, if not for that log, if not for my vision board. So these are some ways you can overcome your, where you can self-reflect, where you can bring the energy to you and remove the energy that you're devoting outside factors which are not in our control. I hope that answers or helps some.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for that clarification. And let's roll deeper into imposter syndrome. That was another question. A couple of questions folks have submitted previous to the chat that deal with how to get through imposter syndrome. So again, if you hear your question, if this is your question, would love to hear from you. And if you're also going through some imposter syndrome right now, or if you have any of your own tips and tricks, we'd love to hear from you. But Karuna, let's move on to this question here. Can you share some tips on how to identify our wins? I'm going through a deep imposter syndrome phase.
Yeah, absolutely. So this again, piggybacks off of what I shared about logging your wins, capturing your wins. As simple as this exercise sounds, it is people, not just me speaking to it, since I've been doing it since 2017, but even folks who started journaling or started logging or started capturing their wins are seeing tremendous amount of progress, a difference in their lives. So it's accomplishing more than just, like I said, capturing your accomplishments. So start small. I mean, start very simple, whether it's journaling or an Excel spreadsheet, but capture your wins. And to identify, or get some tips on how to identify what the wins look like. Again, it is a personal journey. So as high achievers, we have a task list, we have an errand list. Just checking those off, just completing those and checking those off gives us so much a sense of accomplishment. Just putting that as a win is fine to start with, because that gets you going. With me, for example, I have had, since the virtual reality world that we've been living in, I meet a lot of folks online through conferences, and we schedule a coffee chat and exchange ideas, exchange connections, whatever the content may be. I go and log that as I met a new, professional today, and I learned these things, or shared another, I netweaved. That means I connected them with someone else that would help them better or have more expertise. Or I earned a certification. That's a win. That's an accomplishment. I'll put that in, and I'll put a couple of whys. But again, start simple, because for anything to be sustainable long term, it has to be simple and small way to start. Otherwise, you'll give up. It's just like going to the gym, or just like starting a diet. This is no different. Self-advocacy is no different. It is a skill. So I know we'll be sharing some examples down the road, but capturing your wins is important because it also helps you stretch. So I said it boosted my confidence. It helped me become my own competition or inspiration, and definitely a goal setter. It became a goal setter and a stretch goal. So I started this in 2017, and in 2019, it helped me kind of get outside my comfort zone. And I think I failed to mention earlier that you are looking at a walking, talking before self-advocacy and after self-advocacy. And I can vouch that only good things come out of self-promotion and self-advocacy. I went from being called quiet, timid, not assertive, not speaking up, to now, who is this person and where is that other person gone? So I actually started the chat in a photo book as a result in 2019. At end of 2 years, I started a photo book capturing all my major wins. So that would look like I'm bragging about myself or being pompous, but that's for my eyes only. I can show it for the first time here, but that would totally look pompous. But some of the stretch things that I did to get outside of my comfort zone, get outside of my own way, was I volunteered as a community, South Asian community media correspondent. So I took up anchoring. I would interview community leaders, celebrities who came from India. So what that did to me, of course, it gave me visibility, but it also made me think on the spot. Yeah, I had to come up with questions on the spot. I'll never forget a couple of different incidents where, because I'm a big planner, I have to know things ahead of time. But by logging my wins, I was coming up with stretch goals, and I was doing things that even I didn't think I was capable of. But it helped me build a lot of skills and helped gain confidence. Again, self-advocacy is a skill, and finding what are those stretch goals that will help you discover yourself.
So beautiful. I love that you're also just sharing so much about your journey, because I feel like, I mean, I love just how you actually reworded in the same sentence. You're like, I became my own competition. I became my own inspiration. And just to have that, I mean, your vision board, and then these these visuals of like the photos of these wins, or these, the written wins that you're saying. And I love that you're also highlighting your stretch goals. I've never heard it so beautifully, because, I believe also that when I personally either break habits, or, rethink certain habits that I have, to then, try to grow, that automatically gets me out of my comfort zone. And I know that when we get out of our comfort zone, there's an opportunity to grow. And so I really like finding those opportunities. And I love the way that you're speaking about this in the professional world as well. So thank you so much, Karina. This is great. We have some comments in the chat box. Early on, you were mentioning the importance of learning a style, and Joan wrote, learning a style is a great idea and needs to work on that. So she's chiming in there that she needs to work on that as well. It's a matter of, I love that you're putting it in a spreadsheet or writing it down, because oftentimes, as much as, I don't know if this is a good or a bad thing, but we live by our calendars these days. So oftentimes I'll tell people, especially in the world of inclusion, diversity, equity, if you really want to practice what you preach, as an individual, or, with your team, you got to put those calendar reminders in, or else a year is going to fly. And you're like, what do we do to really dive into racism or sexism? We did these couple things, but did that really have some nurturing results? So I love that you're putting time in, throughout since 2017, and then allowing this way that you're learning to self-advocate for yourself to grow. So thank you for that. We have another comment here. Can we get more specifics on styles of self-advocacy?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So finding your style. So there are a couple of ways to do that. And then you may also come up with more creative ways, or if anyone has any ideas, feel free to share as I start sharing. So we all do some sort of an assessment, throughout our career journey. So it can be strength finders, or even through emotional intelligence. So strength finders is a big one. And if you, and I have the book here. So this is the book, if you all can see it. So it's by Discovery of Clifton Strengths by Don Clifton, father of strengths psychology. So there, all my strengths lie in relationship building. The top 5 strengths out of the top 5, 4 lie in relationship building. So I'm an individualizer, or individualization, mediator, harmony, and connectedness. So what happens is I gravitated actually to that same style. Another style is gratitude. I incorporate gratitude because I'm a serial community builder. In fact, my nickname is Octopus, because I have tentacles going in multiple initiatives at any given point of time, not just my work, corporate work, but other initiatives. So I'm a court-appointed special advocate. So when I would normally talk about, I'm a CASA, that's court appointed special advocate volunteer. I work in the best interest of foster children. The reaction that I would get is, wow, you're doing such a great deed. You're so awesome. But that was not the reaction that I wanted. What I wanted was to promote CASA and to promote advocating for foster children. So I changed the way I was saying it, and I said, I'm really fortunate, I'm really blessed to have this opportunity to work with children who've been removed from their home and they're in the foster care system. And I work with the legal system to see how we can get back to their family, get the children back to their families, because it's really important to bridge that gap, especially if there was just a misinformation or miscommunication, or the parents just needed to be more educated or equipped on how to take care of their children. And there is a need for volunteers like me. So would you be interested in looking into this, community initiative, whether it is donating or whether it is. So I removed the attention from me, and yes, I am involved. I am a volunteer. I am conveying that, but focusing on the subject, focusing on the topic, focusing on the work that I'm doing and the results and the impact that it's having, the whys. So it's pretty much storytelling, but finding a style that works for you. And then there was another one that I did when I was doing the career pivot to make sure that diversity, equity, inclusion, as much as I'm, passionate about the initiative and I've been involved again since 4 years, but to make that complete transformation, I wanted to see again, what are the things that, what are my triggers? What gets me excited? And there was this interest profiler that I came across when I was doing a course on Coursera. And there was the investigative, they are the thinkers, artistic, the creators, social, the helpers, enterprising, the persuaders, conventional, the organizers, realistic, the doers. So I found that, yes, I have a creative bone. I've been using Canva like crazy. If you see my posts on LinkedIn, they're all Canva. And I had to rebrand myself because, I moved from supply chain to DEI. Again, if you look at my posts, you'll never get that I was in supply chain or restaurant industry ever. And so again, finding that niche, I'm a creator, I'm a helper. I mean, I'm involved with at least 7 or 8 community outreach organizations, actively involved. So when my style is always gratitude, it is always a solver, a helper, or a creator, creativity. So that gives you, that helps you kind of recognize your style. Again, it is about your authentic self. Regardless, before you find that, it is going to feel very weird. And I will, probably have time to talk about what got me into my self-advocacy journey. But yeah, these are some examples that I wanted to share.
Yes, please feel free to dive deep there. We would love to hear more about your journey. Actually, this might be the perfect place to do that, but you decide. You were speaking about storytelling earlier, and this question kind of rings to that. So again, if this is your question, folks, if you're online with us and this is your question, please let us know. So the stories we tell ourselves can impact us deeply. How can we generate this mind shift and start speaking positively to ourselves? And I love that this is to ourselves. But also, if you want to say, how can we speak positively about ourselves to other people to give that like internal and external reflection, that would be nice too. But the question reads, how can we start speaking positively to ourselves? How can we start to speak positively to ourselves?
No, this is a brilliant question because sometimes we get in our own way. Sometimes, I mean, majority of the times we are getting in our own way. We have all these thoughts that are coming at us. And if we don't, shift gears, we will just spiral. We just spiral, and then it's like a wildfire. It catches on to other things that were not even in the picture to begin with. So it is really, really important to exercise, compassion and grace to ourselves when we catch ourselves in a negative framework, or speaking negatively, or just minimizing ourselves, our self-worth, our contributions. So what happened in my instance, my journey was, of course, I grew up in India, and more so grew up in a conservative household where, of course, both my parents worked. My mother was a very successful career woman, and she went up the rungs of the ladder, the succession. And but what we heard as children growing up at home was work hard, get your certifications, get your degrees, and you will see the results. Maybe you'll see results when you're 50 or 60, I don't know, but that was their generation, It was work hard. There was no such thing as you toot your own horn or talk about your accomplishments. It's your work that will show the results. And when I moved here and started my career here in the US, For the first decade, yes, I was working hard, and this was an organization that did recognize results and rewarded me and recognized me. So I still didn't feel the need to talk about my accomplishments. And then I changed cities, changed organizations, and oh my gosh, this was a different environment that I'd never experienced before. It became survival of the achiever. Talk about survival of the fittest. If you did not talk about your accomplishments, you lost your ownership. Let me just put it that way. You lost ownership of your achievements. So it became a necessity. So here it was a necessity, and it is really interesting how I found ways to wriggle in and start talking about my accomplishments in a way, though it was uncomfortable. Again, creativity is my style. So earlier I would go into the break room and not really have a conversation. No water cooler conversations, no attending happy hours, no doing the lunch get-togethers. Remember, I was the quiet, shy, who doesn't speak person. And now I went into the break room. I would look for the executives, I would look for the leadership team, and just start a conversation. I mean, someone who never did any small talk would talk, and I would be like, I'm using all fake names. Hey, Dirk, I was on the call with the brand launch in, I'm again going to use a fake name, Australia. And there was this issue that came up. And what did leadership do or talk about, or what are the next steps that you all, put together? And whatever his response is, I would say, interestingly, my counterpart, faced this challenge of getting the products cleared through customs or getting product registered, whatever the case may be. But I was able to connect her with this resource, and they were able to get the goods cleared in no time. And actually, it saved them $10,000 in demurrage, and it also helped the brand open on time. So being organic, I didn't go there and say, hey, Dirk, I have some news to share. This is what I did, and this is how I saved you money. So it's important, to have that positive approach and get creative in what you share. So that's my journey. But the mind shift is very important. When you find yourself spiraling, actually, I had a practitioner that I sought when I had a really stressful change in my life. And they said, anytime, a negative thought or a stressful thought comes into play, drink a glass of water, do some breathing exercises, take a short walk. For me, it's yoga or dance. I know they're two extremes, but they help. And then again, journaling. I know I'm sounding like a broken record, but anyone who journals will speak to it. It is very helpful. And be compassionate, have grace, practice mindfulness. All these things do work. And the big one, I can't believe I've still not spelled it out until now, is support system. A strong support system. It takes a village. There's no two ways about it. And one of the things with the pandemic that has impacted is that lack of community, which is also one of the biggest contributors to the mental, wellness that we or health issues that we are facing. I'm going to pause.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I was actually just searching for a book I want to drop in the chat box because I am a total fan of journaling as well. And I was looking for a book that is called The Artist's Way by Julie Cameron. And she has these, what she calls, Julia Cameron, excuse me, what she calls the morning pages. And I find them to be so helpful. And I'm just going to drop that in the link for folks to just have easy access to. But what I find when I journal, and you're not, I mean, even if you're sounding like a broken record, it's for a reason, because I think that we don't give enough credit for the power of journaling. Probably because, I mean, this is my experience and my opinion. Somewhere in grade school, we had like all these red marks, and it's like, okay, well, I shouldn't touch the paper anymore. I'll just think my thoughts and I won't write it down because I don't want to get, marked off for bad grammar or something like that. But then I started to come out of my shell and write more and say, no one else needs to see this. This is for me to dump and to clear and to also see how I think, what my processes are, understand more about myself. So you can play the broken record as much as you want there. And I love that this mentor of yours spoke about the power of breathing and drinking water and taking a walk in order to get that clarity and also to come back to ourselves, right? So this is really interesting, especially now, as you're mentioning, getting into this virtual space, I did a series of talks about, how we can use how we can build emotional intelligence to tackle this isolation pandemic that they're calling this isolation. It's not a pandemic, excuse me. Well, this period of time where lots of folks are experiencing isolation because of what's happening in the world, and how do you face that? How do you deal with that? And so I was focusing on using emotional intelligence. Things like journaling come up. The first pillar of emotional intelligence is self-awareness, which is everything that you're speaking about right now. In order to advocate for yourself, we need to be aware of ourselves. And so what do we do to do that? And especially now that lots of things are closed, we can't really do, we can't go and listen to music playing on the street. Maybe that would be our time to let loose and get a breath of fresh air. We have to figure out how to be more creative and in this isolation. So seeing isolation less as a place of, I'm alone, no one is here to help me, to kind of shift that into solitude, which there's so much power in solitude, the power of being by yourself and reflecting and contemplating. So everything you're saying is just really making a lot of bells ring in my mind. I just wanted to say thank you as you're reflecting on that. We did have Joan write in the chat box that she has that book and that she took the test a couple years ago and needs to go back and reflect on the results. Can you mention the name of the book again that you showed in the camera, just in case folks didn't
Yes,
get a chance to see?
Strengths Finder from Gallup, Gallup, and Tom Rapp. It's Clifton Strengths. If you just type Clifton Strengths, you should be able to find that. Because when you take that test, it basically tells you what are your strengths. And they advocate for working on your strengths, building your strengths, because again, growing up, it always was work on your weaknesses, build your, get better at it so that it's not a weakness anymore. But Gallup and the well-being and Clifton Finders, they all talk about building on your strengths, what you're good at, get even better and be best at it, because that's your natural strength.
I love that. I love that. And I'll make sure to have you put that in the rewatch email so folks can click on the link and get that book in case they're interested in diving in deep there. All right, so let's move on. We've got a little over 15 minutes left. So if anyone wants to hop off mute, just let me know in the chat box or just go for it, hop off mute. We do, want to really maximize our time here. So, but until anyone does that, I'll continue to read the questions that you all have submitted previous to the chat. Okay, so we talked a lot about, going within and self-advocating. I like to bring it out into the sphere, the collective sphere on this question here. So let's pivot into, how can we advocate for others? So this question reads, how can we also encourage others to have a mindset of embracing their self-worth?
No, I do like that question because like I said, just in my previous, as we were talking about the previous talk, is that it's a village, it's a community that we live in. And despite what we are facing right now, how can we still make sure that community continues, And so, of course, I'm going to advocate for the I'm Remarkable workshop. Attending those workshops is definitely one of the ways of increasing awareness. And I know I'm having my next workshop on June 8th, and we can share the link here if you're interested in learning more about I'm Remarkable, because it is an awareness generating community. There are over 8,000 facilitators. It is conducted in nearly 150 countries. So it talks about all the research that has gone behind that workshop and putting that workshop together, because women who don't self-advocate, and they also talked about minority groups, marginalized groups, underrepresented groups also have that same hesitation. So what it's alluding to or directing to is that when you're a minority in the room, you have the tendency to face that hesitation or not speak up because of cultural norms, societal norms. It also goes into the different cultures around the world and what advocacy looks or does not look like to them. So just being aware also, even if you're at times, even I'm going to be a majority in the room and there will be someone else who's the minority, and just attending these workshops gives me the awareness as well of what a minority may be facing and how I'm equipped to support or help or engage them as well. when I conducted the workshop, I did have questions that came up about, my boss does not even know what advocacy looks like. So having I'm Remarkable facilitators come to the organization or have them attend a workshop, because at least it'll give them a trigger of, oh, this is something that's important. This is something that's in existence. This is something that needs to be. And this was in the US where I was told that the manager does not like to talk about the team, does not like to talk about his team members. And yeah, so there's always that learning. But also you can get creative, and just like you have girls night out, you can have call it something peppy, something fun, or just I'm Remarkable night out, where you all exchange your how remarkable you are, some accomplishments, or just get creative, but make it an intentional moment. And also you can do like I'm Remarkable Wednesdays or I'm Remarkable Tuesdays, and just brag or put a social post out there. Even if you're not a social media person, start posting, because you have to brand yourself when you're in the corporate world or the business world. You have to be your own marketeer. You have to be your own spokesperson. And again, I can draw you to my LinkedIn. And in the last 6 months, I had to rebrand myself, and I had to get out of my own skin, get out of my comfort zone, and be okay, because my posts changed 180. And I do get positive and constructive feedback. Every time I'm hesitant and second guess myself and do all those, I still go ahead. I mean, there's no stopping me. I will still go ahead despite all those barriers and hurdles. And then most of the time, the outcome is positive. So to build community, to encourage others, you have to start a movement. And it can start with you, capturing your wins, celebrating your wins, creating a culture of organically speaking about your wins. Create a challenge, 6-month challenge, or even start small, 7-day challenge. So you can get creative on spreading self-advocacy and promoting self-worth.
I love that. And I love that you're highlighting, that it takes a village, because it's true. And so, leaving that door open or sending the elevator down so that, we're not alone at the table, let's say. And two, we're having that feedback loop, where we are promoting others who may not have the access, may not have, the time, the education, all those things that, those variables that are, there's a plethora of them. So I love this focus on community is key, and authentic community, of course, is key. So speaking of community, I have dropped Karuna's LinkedIn here in the chat box. So she has extended the invitation to connect with her on LinkedIn. So feel free to use that link. I've also dropped this Google spreadsheet on a journal sample for I Am Remarkable, so you can have access to that. And then I've put the workshop that is on June 8th. I've put a link here so you can directly access that as well. So don't worry, she will also put this in the rewatch email. So if you can't multitask right now and click on those links, you'll get that in the rewatch email. So we've got about 10 minutes left. I would love to, speaking of community, I'm really interested in hearing how you approach this question here that was submitted before this conversation. So how can we teach our young ones that they are remarkable? I want to nurture this mindset in my kids. Do you have any exercises or practices you can recommend?
Yeah, this one is definitely close to me, because my advocacy center around children and youth advocacy. So because they are our future generation, they are our community, they are going to be the future workforce. So how they are raised, the environment being safe and secure is very, very dear and near to me. So that's why my advocacy center around children and youth most of the time. So again, this is great initiative to start something positive when they are young, because it is their formative years when they are readily impressionable. And for children, they absorb everything like a sponge. So having that role model, modeling it for them, I would say would be the first thing. What does, being remarkable look like to them, look like to you? Because there's no right or wrong way to assess this. So they are going to role model what you exhibit and what you convey, but definitely fostering a conducive environment, a psychological safety is very important, especially for young children, because what they learn in their childhood is pretty much solid. It is foundational, and it stays for life. And this is all research that's based when I trained to be a CASA, and also when I trained to be a coach. So the formative years of children are very, very, are lifelong. Childhood lasts a lifetime. So that's the saying, childhood lasts a lifetime. So what you inculcate in kids will be lasting. So creating that conducive environment is the key, because in all the workshops that I've attended or conducted, it stems from your environment that you were raised in. So being okay to talk about the positive things that you've accomplished, your achievements, your accomplishments, and again, helping them. It's all about delivering that message, storytelling. So helping them recognize their strength and their style to convey that message. So I would say helping them with that. So as much as we've spoken about, journaling or logging your achievements and accomplishments with children, I would also recommend the gratitude. I mean, not that adults can't, but gratitude, journaling with gratitude will also help kind of, if there is any concern of getting cocky or getting arrogant or not, because there's always a fine line, journaling, having a gratitude journal, and also getting involved in community give back will kind of stabilize the line between I'm remarkable and I'm grateful at the same time. So then a ritual, have your own ritual or family tradition of, every Tuesday, we're going to talk about how remarkable I was. So you can get creative again. Sorry, Mariella.
No apologies at all. I mean, I love that you are highlighting the creative, the vessel, the creative vessel that we can use to our benefit, actually, and to not just nurture ourselves within, because I love that you're saying, I can't say it correctly the way that you said it, being a child is a lifetime or something.
Childhood lasts a lifetime.
A lifetime, right? So now, what are we doing now? We're unlearning all these things that we were, that we thought were the right ways of, like, maybe not self-advocating and maybe keeping our treasures and our gifts and our, brag sheet to ourselves. It's like, no, let's unlearn that. Let's be confident and be respectful and be grateful. So I love that you're highlighting that. So we've got about 7 minutes left. Is there anything else that you want to touch on? We've got more questions that folks have submitted previous to the chat, but I want to just know, from your opinion, is there anything that you see coming up in your workshop? Is there anything that you see happening right now in real time with all of the, noise that we see on social media and being online? How can we make sure that we are, being true to ourselves and, honoring ourselves and the work that we do in these unprecedented times? Is there anything that's coming out to you that you want to share, now to our live audience? Putting you on the spot, but I know you speak with a lot of beautiful minds.
No, that is a great question. And so, like you said, relevant and key to what is happening. There's a lot of change. There's a lot of positive and, some changes are uncomfortable and some changes were long due. So it's, again, identifying what connects, how can you support, how can you help, which is what triggered my career pivot. I was always working on the diversity, equity, and inclusion arena, and all my community outreach was based around diversity, equity, and inclusion. For example, I mentor veterans who are transitioning from the military to the civilian world. I actually have been career coaching them for, again, 2 or 3 years now. And that's why, like I said, I decided to get specialized in that field as well. But seeing with everything that's going on, how can you contribute? How can you move things forward for yourself and for the community? Like I said, I'm a serial community builder, so everything is what started off as a give back. Oh yeah, this is another book I wanted to show. Well-being is something that helps me keep my life balanced. It's, again, by Tom Rapp and Jim Harder, five essential elements. So it's career, financial, social, community, and physical. I would say add mental well-being as well, making sure that all these buckets or all these within the wheel are balanced. And what I found was I was lacking in community outreach or community well-being, and now it is full blown, because what I discovered was by giving to the community, I was getting a lot. You actually build skills. So if anyone is experiencing any sort of gap on their resume, volunteer. There are tons of volunteer organizations like Taproot, Catch a Fire, which will actually help build your skills. If you're looking to get on boards, if you're looking to, again, pivot a career, try volunteering for these organizations. They have other foundations. It's like a database, and other foundations go in there and put in their request for what type of volunteers they're looking for: project management, data analytics, helping with presentation and facilitation, research. I mean, it's just unbelievable what is out there and what you can support. So if you want to learn a new skill, if you want to try something before deciding if that's the way to go, those are some organizations: Taproot, Catch a Fire, Volunteer Match. Again, if you want to know more, feel free to schedule a call with me. This is something I have done plenty of research, have plenty of experience, but just make sure you continue to contribute to the greater good.
Yes. Say that one more time, please. I don't know if everyone heard you.
No, make time. I mean, make sure you contribute to the greater good. It's needed more than ever before. And trust me, you get a lot back. I would almost say selfishly.
It's beautiful. I mean, I love the perspective of, giving and not just like how you started this conversation by saying, I could respond by saying, thank you. Yeah, I know I'm great at this. Pay me. Versus, oh, thank you so much. This is my passion. I have this coming up next. Feel free to join my next, performance. And not expecting them to come, but if they do come, great, because you've opened that space, you've extended that invitation. Versus, I'm giving this to you. I'm giving you a great performance. This is what you owe me. Like, not feeling like you need to be owed anything. You're doing this out of the, the generosity of your passion, of your heart. But again, that takes self-awareness to know what is it that makes you, just want to pour out and give? What is, something that inspires you? And I love that you're highlighting right now, we need to contribute more than ever. And again, it starts with, like how you said, with well-being. It starts with yourself, that mindset, and working from within, and then, sharing those resources without. You speak a lot about building your network without even saying, like, build your network. It's important. You're like, this is where we are. This is what's happening. We're being put in this situation. How can we use it to our benefit instead of, not, and then having all of the things that we've done just kind of simmer away or be swept under the rug. I know that, I love speaking or highlighting at least technology and just, how we are, again, in unprecedented times, not to sound like a broken record, but we really have a lot of opportunity to experiment. And hopefully we're doing that with empathy. Hopefully we're doing that with emotional intelligence. Hopefully we are leaving the door open for others and sending the elevator back down. So Karuna, I love everything that you've shared in this past hour. I'm definitely going to be sharing this conversation with some of my friends who I think will benefit from hearing this conversation. We've got about 1 minute left. So is there any food for thought you can leave us with? And of course, let us know how we can connect with you when we finish this conversation.
Yeah, if there's anything, I know I shared a lot. Like I said, there's a corporate side of me, there's the community outreach part of me, there's a coaching side of me. Like I said, my nickname is Octopus because I have tentacles in several areas, and I'm always keeping myself relevant. I'm a huge upskiller, and I'm just aware of so many forums because that's all I have been fully invested in this past year. So if there's anything that I can support anyone with, I'm here. My information, there's a lot more information to reach out to me on LinkedIn. So happy to support or just engage because I have virtual coffee chats, at least 2 to 3 per week. So yeah, and this is an introvert. So I can't even imagine what extroverts are doing. This is the timid, shy, quiet person.
Well, I applaud you, and I'm inspired by you and the work that you do. So I'll definitely be in touch when we finish this conversation. Hopefully, those of us who are listening live or rewatching this video will also be in touch with you, Karuna. Thank you so much, Karuna. Thank you, everyone who's joined us live for the hour. And remember that Karuna has an awesome workshop coming up in a couple weeks, right? June, is it June 8th?
Yeah, June 8th. Yeah, there'll be many more. Again, I'll keep that posted on LinkedIn. But again, thank you everyone for taking the time to jump on. And thank you so much, Mariella and Power to Fly. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Awesome. We'll see you all next time. Ciao, ciao.